Dust Hollow was a town that had learned to forget things. Except him. The afternoon sun burned low over the wooden streets, painting everything in a tired orange glow. Dust hung in the air like it didn't want to settle. The town was alive, but only on the surface, because the moment Cole Mercer rode in, everything inside it froze. He came in alone. No music, no words, only the slow creaking of his horse on dry ground. Cole Mercer didn't look like a man returning home. His coat was worn from years on the road. His hat shadowed a face shaped by exhaustion, not age. His eyes weren't angry, just empty, like someone who had seen too much and stopped expecting anything from the world. The first sign of recognition came instantly. A man outside the general store froze mid-step. The bottle in his hand slipped and shattered on the ground. The sound felt too loud in the silence. Then came the whispers. No, it can't be him. Cole Mercer. He's back. People turned slowly. Conversations died. Doors began closing one by one. Curtains shifted as faces disappeared behind them. It wasn't fear exactly, it was memory. The kind that still hurts after years. Cole didn't react. He didn't look around. He just kept riding forward as if he had expected this all along. At the end of the main street, Sheriff Daniel Hayes stepped out. Older now, heavier in presence. His hand rested near his revolver, but he didn't draw it. His eyes stayed locked on Cole like he was reading a story he never wanted to read again. The wind passed between them. "You've got a lot of nerve coming back here," Hayes said. Not loud. It didn't need to be. Cole stopped his horse. For a moment, he didn't answer. He looked at the town, saloon, church, old wooden buildings, like each one held something he had lost long ago. Something heavier than guilt. Then he spoke, low and steady. "I didn't come back for trouble." A man in the crowd laughed bitterly. Another spat. The sheriff didn't move. "Trouble follows you, Cole," Hayes said. "It always did." Cole looked at him, calm but tired. "Not this time." Silence returned, heavier than before. The sheriff studied him. There was anger, but also doubt. The Cole Mercer he remembered was dangerous, but this version felt different, finished, like a man with nothing left to prove. Cole pulled the reins and moved forward. No one stopped him. No one dared. The crowd parted as he passed, eyes following every step. Some angry, some confused, some afraid of what his return meant. At the edge of town stood an old boarding house, broken, forgotten, like it had been waiting to collapse. The paint was faded, the wood cracked, the porch slightly tilted. Cole stopped there. He tied his horse quietly, the rope creaked softly. He stood for a moment, staring at the door like it held answers he wasn't sure he deserved. Behind him, Dust Hollow stayed silent, watching, waiting, not knowing if the man who returned was a ghost from there, past or the beginning of something they wouldn't survive. Morning in Dust Hollow did not bring comfort. It brought pressure, the kind that sits on a town's chest and refuses to leave. Cole Mercer was still there, and by sunrise, that was all anyone could talk about. The news spread through Dust Hollow faster than horses. From the saloon to the church, from the blacksmith to the smallest homes, people whispered his name like it carried danger in every letter. Cole Mercer, back again. By the time the sun rose higher, the town was divided into two things, anger and fear. Some wanted him gone. Others waited for him to slip, just to prove what they already believed. Cole walked the main street again that morning. He didn't rush. He didn't hide. He moved like a man who had already accepted every judgment. But the town had changed. Where there was silence yesterday, now there was hostility. At the general store, the door slammed shut as he approached. The man inside didn't wait. "No service for you," he said sharply. Cole stood there for a moment. Not angry, just tired. "I'm not here to take anything," he said quietly. The store owner didn't move. "People like you always say that. Right before something burns." Cole said nothing. He turned and walked out, the door closing harder behind him. Outside, the street had filled with men, not soldiers, not lawmen, just townspeople carrying years of anger. Young men raised on stories about Cole Mercer, stories shaped by fear. One stepped forward, blocking his path. "You don't belong here," he said. Cole stopped. The wind passed between them. "I never said I did," Cole replied. That only made things worse. Another man spat near his boots. "We remember what you did," someone said. Cole lifted his eyes slowly. "What you remember isn't always what happened," he said calmly. That broke whatever patience was left. "You think time fixes things?" The man snapped. "You think walking back here changes anything?" Cole looked at him for a long moment. "No," he said quietly. "I don't." That honesty didn't calm them. It made them uneasy. And in a small town, unease turns into anger. Behind them, Sheriff Daniel Hayes stood outside his office, watching, measuring. He had seen men like Cole before. Dangerous men, broken men. But Cole didn't fit either anymore. He didn't look like a threat. He looked like something unfinished. Still, Hayes kept his hand near his gun. Because he knew one thing. Quiet men were the hardest to read. That afternoon, something changed. A ranch worker came from the outskirts, breathless and shaken. He spoke of tracks near the hills. Multiple riders, moving together, organized. Hayes went to see for himself. What he found wasn't Cole's work. Clean tracks, fast movement. This wasn't one man. It was a group. But when he returned, the town had already decided. "It's him," someone said. They followed him back. Same kind always travels together. Truth didn't matter. Fear had already chosen its story. That night, Dust Hollow slept uneasy, and Cole Mercer stood outside the old boarding house, staring at the dark hills. He didn't look surprised. He looked ready. Because whatever was coming, it wasn't about hate anymore. It was about survival, and the town that hated him most still didn't understand he might be the only thing standing between them and death. The nights in Dust Hollow had changed. They were no longer quiet. They were watching. A cold wind moved through the town after sunset slipping. Between wooden walls and empty streets, like something unseen was passing, dogs barked more. Horses grew restless, and men who once slept easily now woke at night for no clear reason. Something was wrong, but no one wanted to say it out loud. At the edge of town near the broken boarding house, Cole Mercer sat outside in the dark, a small fire burning low beside him. His hat rested beside him, his face, visible in the weak light, tired, scarred but focused. He wasn't resting. He was listening. Every sound mattered. Every movement in the distance told a story. And tonight the story was getting closer. Far beyond the town hidden in the hills, shadows moved. Not one. Many riders. Quiet, controlled, experienced. They didn't carry lanterns, they didn't speak loudly. They moved like men who had done this before, men who knew exactly where they were going and why. Cole's eyes narrowed as he stared into the darkness. He recognized this pattern. This wasn't random. This was a hunt. Later that night, a single gunshot broke the silence. It echoed across the hills, sharp and quick, then gone. The town reacted instantly. Windows opened. Voices rose. Fear spread faster than the sound. Gunfire. Where was that? Men grabbed rifles. Some ran toward the edge of town. Others stayed behind, watching the darkness move closer. Sheriff Hayes stepped out again, fully armed, now scanning the horizon. But they found nothing. No body. No shooter. Just silence returning like it had never been broken. Only Cole knew better. Because while the town searched in the open, he moved in the shadows. Deep into the hills under the cover of darkness, a man lay dead beside his horse. One of the riders a scout. A clean shot. Precise. Professional. Cole stood a few feet away. His revolver still in his hand, smoke fading from the barrel. His expression didn't change. No pride, no anger. Just understanding. "They're getting closer," he muttered quietly. The dead man wore a symbol on his coat, faint but clear enough. Cole recognized it instantly. The Black Ridge Riders, a name most people in Dust Hollow had never heard, but Cole knew too well. They weren't just outlaws. They were hunters. And they didn't come for money. They came for people. Cole looked back toward the distant lights of the town. "They followed me," he said under his breath. For a moment, something heavy passed through his eyes. Not fear, but responsibility. He holstered his gun and pulled the body off the path, hiding it, where it wouldn't be found easily. The town didn't need to see this. Not yet. Because they would panic back in Dust Hollow. The people returned slowly to their homes, still uneasy, still whispering, and just like before, they blamed the wrong man. "It's him," someone said again. It started when he came back. Sheriff Hayes didn't respond this time, because for the first time, he wasn't completely sure, and Out in the darkness beyond the town, more shadows moved forward, closer, patient waiting. Dust Hollow slept, but Cole Mercer didn't. While the town locked its doors and whispered in fear, Cole moved through the night like a shadow no one could see. The fire outside his boarding house burned low, left behind only to make it seem like he was still there. But he wasn't. He was already out beyond the town in the darkness where the real danger lived. The hills were colder at night, the wind sharper. Every sound carried further, and somewhere in that darkness, the Black Ridge. Riders were moving slow, patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. Cole crouched behind a ridge, his eyes fixed on a small group of riders below. 3 men armed, talking in low voices. Their horses restless. "They'll break by morning," one of them said. "Town won't even see it coming," another replied with a quiet laugh. Cole's grip on his revolver tightened slightly. So it was true. They weren't just watching anymore. They were planning to destroy Dust Hollow. Cole didn't hesitate. A single shot rang out, sharp, controlled. One man dropped instantly. Before the others could react, Cole had already moved, fast, precise, silent. Another shot. Then another. Within seconds, all 3 riders lay still in the dust. No shouting, no warning, just silence returning to the hills. Cole stood there for a moment, breathing slowly, his eyes scanning the darkness. He knew this wasn't victory. It was delay. "They won't stop," he said quietly. And he was right. Because further in the distance, more riders waited, more than he could handle alone. But still, he didn't go back. Night after night it continued. Gunshots far from town, bodies that were never found by the people. Trails erased, signs hidden. Cole fought them in pieces, cutting them down before they could reach the town. Never asking for help, never telling anyone the truth. And every morning he returned, quietly, walking through the same streets where people still looked at him with, "Hate they say more trouble happened last night," someone whispered of. "Of course it did," another replied. "He's still here?" Cole heard them. But he didn't stop, didn't defend himself, didn't explain. Because he already knew something they didn't. If he stopped fighting, Dust Hollow wouldn't survive a single night. One evening, as the sun dropped again, Cole sat outside the boarding house, cleaning his revolver slowly. His hands were steady, but his body was wearing down. Small cuts, bruises, exhaustion hidden under silence. From a distance, Sheriff Hayes watched him. Something didn't add up anymore. The attacks were real. The fear was real. But the man sitting there didn't look like the cause. He looked like something else, something tired, but still standing. And for the first time since Cole returned, doubt entered the sheriff's mind. Out in the hills, the remaining Black Ridge riders gathered more. "Organized now, more." "Dangerous?" Their leader stood at the front, staring toward the distant town lights. "Enough waiting," he said coldly. "Next time we ride through." Back in Dust Hollow, no one heard those words. No one understood what was coming. No one? Except the man they hated most. Truth begins to crack. By the time the 5th night came, Dust Hollow was no longer the same town. Fear had settled in. Not loud fear, not panic, but the quiet kind. The kind that sits behind your eyes, follows you into sleep and wakes you up before the sun rises. Something was happening. Everyone felt it, but no one understood it. And worse, they were still blaming the wrong man. That evening, the sky burned red as the sun dropped behind the hills. The kind of sunset that looked more like a warning than something beautiful. Sheriff Daniel Hayes stood outside his office, staring toward those same hills. He hadn't slept properly in days. Too many questions. Too many things not adding up. Tracks in the dirt that didn't belong to one man. Gunshots that came from different directions. Attacks that were too clean, too controlled. This wasn't chaos. This was strategy. And Cole Mercer didn't work like that. Hayes didn't like admitting it, even to himself. But something was wrong with the story the town believed. Across the street, inside the small church, Martha Hayes lit a candle quietly. She wasn't praying the way others did. She was thinking, watching, understanding. She had seen Cole up close, not as a story, not as a rumor, but as a man, and what she saw didn't match what the town said. Later that night, as the wind picked up again, she made a decision. Cole was back in the hills, like every night, moving through darkness that had become familiar to him. But tonight felt different. He could sense it. The air was heavier, the silence deeper, and then he heard it. Movement. Not two, not three. Many. Cole dropped low instantly, his hand already on his gun. From the ridge ahead, shadows appeared. More riders than before. More organized. This wasn't a scouting group. This was preparation. They're done waiting, Cole whispered under his breath. His jaw tightened slightly, because he understood what this meant. The next time they moved, they wouldn't stop at the hills. They would go straight through Dust Hollow. Back in town, Martha quietly approached the boarding house. The door was slightly open. The fire outside had burned down. Cole wasn't there. That alone told her something. She stepped inside carefully. The room was simple, bare, no comfort. No sign of a man planning anything. Only one thing stood out, his coat hanging to the side, torn, blood-stained. Not old blood, fresh. Martha froze. Her breath slowed. This wasn't the room of a man hiding. This was the room of a man fighting. The next morning, everything changed. A body was found. Not near town. Closer! Too close. One of the riders. Dead. Clean shot. Professional? Sheriff Hayes arrived quickly. He knelt down, studying the body carefully. This wasn't random. This was skill. Military-level precision. His eyes moved slowly across the ground. Tracks everywhere. Not one man. A group. And then he saw something that made him pause. Another set of tracks. Different. Alone. Moving toward the riders. Not away. Hayes stood up slowly. For the first time, the thought became clear. What if he's not the one bringing this? What if he's the one holding it back? That evening, Martha found Cole. Not in town, but just outside it. Injured. He was leaning against a rock, breathing slowly, his shirt stained with blood. Not fatal, but deep enough. Martha rushed toward him. "You're hurt," she said quickly. Cole didn't seem surprised to see her. "It's nothing," he replied. "It's not nothing," she said firmly. She looked at him, really looked this time. "You've been fighting, haven't you?" Cole didn't answer. That was answer enough. "Why?" she asked. "After everything. After how they treat you? Why are you still protecting them?" Cole looked toward the town in the distance. Lights beginning to glow as night approached. For a moment, he said nothing. Then quietly, "Because they don't deserve what's coming." Martha's eyes softened, but her voice stayed strong. "And you do?" Cole didn't respond. Because deep down, he believed he did. That same night, Sheriff Hayes gathered a few men. Not many, only the ones he trusted. He didn't tell them everything. Just enough. "We've been looking in the wrong direction," he said. Some didn't like hearing that, but they listened, because the fear had grown too real to ignore. Out in the hills, the Black Ridge Riders gathered again. More of them now. Stronger, angrier. Their leader stepped forward, his eyes cold, focused. "Tonight," he said. "No more waiting." Back in Dust Hollow, people closed their doors early, windows locked, lights dimmed. No one knew exactly why, but everyone felt it. Something was coming, something bigger than fear. And standing at the edge of town, wounded, exhausted, but still unbroken, Cole Mercer loaded his revolver slowly. Not for revenge, not for himself, but for the same people who still didn't trust him. The night Dust Hollow finally broke. It didn't come with warning. It came with silence. A strange, unnatural silence that covered the town like a heavy blanket. No dogs barking. No drunk voices from the saloon. No footsteps on wooden streets. Even the wind felt like it had stopped. It was as if the entire world was holding its breath. The arrival. Far beyond the hills, the Black Ridge Riders finally moved as one. No scouts. No hesitation. No waiting. Dozens of riders descended from the darkness like a living storm. Horses thundered against dry earth, their movements perfectly coordinated. These were not ordinary outlaws. They were trained, disciplined, and cold. Their leader rode at the front, his face hidden under a dark hat. His voice was calm. "Burn everything!" And Dust Hollow began its final night. The first strike. The attack started at the edge of town. A single explosion shattered the quiet, a supply shed bursting into flames. Then another. Then gunfire. Windows lit up with panic. Doors were kicked open. People screamed as fire spread across wooden buildings faster than anyone could control. Dust Hollow was no longer a town. It was a battlefield. Sheriff Hayes ran into the street, shouting orders. But chaos had already taken control. Men fired blindly into the smoke. Others tried to escape. Some simply froze. And above it all, the sound of horses closing in. Coles returned to the fire. Cole Mercer stood on the ridge overlooking the burning town. For a moment, he didn't move. He just watched. Everything he feared, everything he tried to prevent, was happening exactly as he knew it would. He loaded his revolver slowly. Not anger, not revenge, responsibility. Then he whispered, "And it's time," and he walked into the fire. And the war begins. Cole entered Dust Hollow like a shadow cutting through flames. The moment he stepped onto the street, chaos slowed around him. Not because it stopped, but because people saw him. Some shouted his name. Some cursed him. Some simply stared. Because even now, in the middle of destruction, he was there. Gunfire erupted. Cole moved instantly. One rider fell, then another. His movements were precise, controlled, almost mechanical. He wasn't fighting like a man trying to survive. He was fighting like a man finishing something unfinished. Sheriff Hayes saw him through the smoke, and for the first time, he didn't raise his gun. He just watched.
The truth becomes clear. A rider charged toward the sheriff. Hayes froze for a split second. But before the bullet reached him, Cole appeared. One shot. The rider fell from his horse. Silence hit Hayes harder than the explosion around him. Cole didn't look at him. He just said, "Stay alive and help your town." Then he moved forward again. And in that moment, everything Hayes believed about Cole broke. Sword stand. The Black Ridge leader stepped into the main street, now face to face, fire burning around them, dust in the air, two men at the end of everything. "You've been stopping us for weeks," the leader said calmly. Cole didn't answer immediately. He simply raised his revolver. "I wasn't stopping you," Cole said quietly. "I was delaying this." The duel began instantly. Gunfire cracked through the burning town, fast, violent, unforgiving. Cole was hit once, in the shoulder. He didn't stop. Another shot grazed his side, still moving. Then Cole fired. The leader staggered, but didn't fall. He smiled slightly. "You're already dead, Mercer." Cole stepped closer. "I know." One final shot. The leader collapsed into the dust. Broken heart. But Cole didn't walk away, because it wasn't over yet. More riders were still coming, and Cole knew what needed to be done. He turned toward the remaining attackers. Sheriff Hayes shouted, "Cole, there's too many." Cole didn't look back. His voice was low. "Then don't waste this." He stepped forward alone, gun in hand, standing between the burning town and everything left of the riders. And he fought. Not for glory, not for survival, but for time. For people who hated him, for a town that never understood him. Lantern final moment. One by one the riders fell, but Cole's movement slowed. His breathing grew heavier. His vision blurred slightly. Still he didn't stop. Until finally, one bullet broke through. Cole staggered, dropped to one knee. The town slowly went quiet around him. Even the fire felt distant now. Sheriff Hayes rushed forward. "Cole!" Cole raised his hand slightly, stopping him. No panic, no fear, just acceptance. The riders were gone. The town was safe. Broken heart, but the truth at the end. People gathered slowly. The same people who hated him, the same people who feared him, now standing in silence. Cole looked up slightly. His voice was weak. "I didn't come back for forgiveness." A pause. "I came back because no one else would stop it." Sheriff Hayes knelt beside him. "I was wrong about you." Cole gave a faint, tired breath that almost looked like a smile. "Doesn't matter anymore." His eyes shifted toward the burning sky. "Just don't waste this place." And then he went still. Autumn cast. The fire was eventually controlled. The riders were gone. Dust Hollow survived. But nothing felt the same anymore. Because the man they called a monster was the reason they still had a town. Godstone. Days later, a grave was built at the edge of Dust Hollow. No loud ceremony. No speeches. Just silence. Sheriff Hayes placed a simple wooden marker, and for the first time, he said the truth out loud. We were wrong. The wind moved across the empty land, and Dust Hollow finally understood what it had lost.